F, F, F.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Ballard Estate, we're reading 88 degrees Fahrenheit with haze. Wind check, southwest at 13 miles an hour. Our first signal tonight cuts through the noise of law and order rhetoric to reveal a stark tension: the imposition of immense force versus the inherent dignity of a community.
Fresh reports from Memphis expose the grim consequence of the Trump administration's Operation Legend task force. Residents describe federal agents, some without clear identification, conducting warrantless searches and aggressive stops. Over 1,000 arrests were made, but critics argue this came at the cost of deep intimidation, particularly within black communities like Fraser and Orange Mound, eroding public trust in any enforcement.
This isn't just about statistics. It's about the ghost of broken promises and historical overreach. Imagine the cultural imprint. Families in South Memphis seeing their front doors become symbols of vulnerability, not sanctuary, recalling generations of distrust that these federal deployments only deepened, rather than healing community bonds.
A faint buzz hums from the phone line, like a distant power grid under strain. A tinny, questioning voice cuts through the static. Patching in a caller, you're on the signal.
Togee, this is Marcus from West End. You talk about dignity, but what about real safety? If these task forces get guns off the street, isn't that a net gain? Who ultimately pays the price for not having that immense force when crime spikes? Sounds like you're overlooking the immediate threat.
Copy that, bringing it back to the main thread.
Marcus, your concern about crime spikes is valid, but the data suggests alternatives. Cities like Newark, New Jersey, have shifted towards community-led violence interruption programs, empowering local credible messengers to intervene, leading to sustained reductions in shootings without federal militarization.
Exactly. The playable next step isn't just reacting to crime. It's about prototyping new systems of safety. Memphis could implement a citywide initiative to reallocate funds from federal task forces towards expanding the Memphis Peacemakers program, embedding trusted community members as first responders to conflicts, shifting away from an adversarial architecture to one built on consent.
Marcus, accountability for funding dignity is exactly what we need to trace. The silence around these structural failures often mirrors a broader suppression of voices, especially when those voices dare to critique the established order. Same dossier, new angle, keep the thread tight. Hold that thread, next signal. Fire rips through a dormitory at a girls'.
In Kenya, the recent dormitory fire at a girls' school, such as the devastating incident at Moi Girls' School, Nairobi in 2017, which claimed 10 lives, exposes a persistent systemic failure. Overcrowding, inadequate fire exits, and substandard building materials turn places of learning into death traps, directly impacting thousands of students across the nation who live in similar, poorly regulated boarding facilities.
This isn't merely a structural fault. It's a cultural wound. Education for girls is a cornerstone of future generations in Kenya, yet images of scorched bunk beds and abandoned textbooks speak to a betrayal of trust. The communal aspiration for girls to access learning is undermined by an architecture of neglect, leaving parents and students carrying the heavy weight of systemic indifference.
We've got someone.
Togee. This is Marcus again. It sounds like the government isn't doing its job. But where does the money come from for these massive infrastructure overhauls? Are we expecting international aid to cover every school? Or are parents supposed to bear even more costs? Who is truly accountable for funding dignity in these places?
The alternative isn't just waiting for external aid, Marcus. Kenya could mandate and fund independent safety audits for all public boarding schools, backed by a national infrastructure budget line specifically for fire safety upgrades. This shifts the burden from parents to the state's responsibility for its citizens' well-being.
The next move involves a clear design spec for safety. Every dormitory must have a minimum of 2 unobstructed fire exits per floor, and fire drills need to be a mandatory weekly playable event. We should also empower student councils to conduct monthly safety inspections, reporting directly to a newly formed independent school safety ombudsman, transforming passive victims into active guardians of their own space.
Our final signal tonight delves into the deliberate silencing of cultural expression, where the very act of storytelling becomes an act of defiance.
In Israel, there's a documented crackdown on Palestinian cultural voices, with authorities frequently canceling events or revoking permits for institutions like the Al Madan Theater in Haifa or the Palestinian National Theater in Jerusalem. This systematic censorship, often under broad allegations of incitement, directly impacts hundreds of artists, writers, and cultural producers, effectively erasing their narratives from public spaces and denying their self-determined provenance.
This isn't just bureaucratic red tape, it's an assault on the very architecture of identity. Imagine a stage suddenly dark, a poet's microphone unplugged, or a mural whitewashed. For Palestinians, art and culture are the indelible threads weaving history, memory, and future hopes, and their suppression is designed to fracture the collective soul, trying to render their existence contingent on an external, controlling gaze.
Togee, Marcus again. I understand wanting free expression, but every government has a right to protect itself from incitement. If some of these cultural events are actually promoting violence, isn't censorship a necessary evil? Who decides where the line is between culture and security, and who pays when that line is crossed?
Marcus, the alternative to censorship isn't inaction, but robust legal challenge and international advocacy. Independent human rights organizations like Adala frequently litigate against such cultural bans, arguing for freedom of expression under international law, which provides a framework for distinguishing legitimate artistic critique from incitement.
The chosen next move is to build a digital archive, an immutable ledger of all censored Palestinian art and cultural works. This acts as a distributed provenance system, preventing erasure and ensuring that these voices, once silenced in physical space, can resonate globally. We can also crowdfund direct support for independent cultural centers, bypassing state control and asserting artistic autonomy. Prototype the fix.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.